Welcome to this month's Art in Practice, and I'm coming to you from the studio and chat with you first. So I just wanted to discuss something that happens quite often after you've had a very busy period of creating. You go into it's almost like a lull, and I'm thinking it's quite interesting because we're going from our intuitive to fundamentals. So I thought before we started I'd have a little chat because I'm changing Art in Practice. I talked about it last month and I started the 100-day project. It came to a bit of a halt. And that's not surprising. But I think this is day 45 of the 100-day project. So there's still quite a lot of days to go. And what I'm thinking is it's time to pick the pace back up. So what happened was I've actually come from creating a full collection, which was the Spring Awaits collection. I've now put it onto my website so you can have a look at it yourself. And then we've also, I'll just show you some actually whilst we're talking. So I've also had to put it back on the walls. So here we go. This is, I'm just putting it, this is really just put out of the way at the moment. We've got all the small ones up here from the Spring Awaits collection. And I am going to have an open studio, but there's some problems with... So, and what I mean by that is the pub isn't open at the moment. And I think for a lot of people, when they come to the studio, it's quite nice to combine it. Plus, I have some parking issues when the pub's not open as well. So I decided that I'm going to do an open studio so people who've missed it can come to see it here at the studio, and you can see me and have a chat and talk about my process. But meanwhile, for Art in Practice purposes, I'm going to start on the next collection. And what I want to do is I want to do something that, because I tend to work in huge batches of working really, really busy and full on, and then it'll change to another part of the process. It's how I work. I very much work around the creative process wheel. So what I mean by that is I prepared the collection. We went into exhibiting mode and we went to the Bear Steps Gallery, which was very successful. And thank you to anybody who's come to visit us there. And then we've come back here and I've had a lot of paintings to unpack, to put on the website, to do all sorts of admin-y stuff. And then at the same time as that, I actually got poorly with a bug. I was probably a little run down. However, there was definitely a bug going round that I've picked up because the family had it. So, and everything came to a bit of a halt. So a lot of my creativity that I was starting for the next process appears to have come to a halt. However, what's actually happened is, as I'm not very well and taking it really easy, I've started to get more and more ideas. So the ideas sort of go around in your head. So these are ideas because what I've done is, whilst I was doing the last collection, I was preparing for the next one. So I've shown you this. And, oh, where is it? There we go. So things are all over the place. So we've shown you this. I was working on it even during the exhibition because we had a little demo table. And interestingly, what this has done is formulated my ideas onto the next collection. So over the next few days, what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare some work, and we're going to talk about so I'll go through my intuitive phase, but then we'll talk a little bit about fundamentals. And I want to do it in some sort of small patches, but just to show you what I'm doing here. So here I've worked fairly intuitively, just particularly I've thought about the colours. So when we talk about fundamentals as opposed to intuition, we've done 3 months on intuition. So we've done quite a lot of just going with your gut feeling, which a lot of this is. But what I've done in order to do that is I've given myself things to work against. So I've started it off with poetry in the background. And I'm going to do a very similar process, but having learnt from this book. So the way I started the book was I put poetry in the background, and then I put some other bits of collage, something to work against. And you can see that over my Instagram and over things, because this book's been going for a long time. But it's been going for a long time because I've always had an idea of doing a collection with it. I've just not been sure how to incorporate the poetry. So my next few days and through this month, I'm going to be doing some experiments, which isn't necessarily to do with fundamentals, but the creative process goes back and forth. So what I wanted to just show you here was, if you look back at the very, very first page, this was about a poem that I wrote in my 20s, to be honest, and it's Seasons of Time. And so in a way, this is more about reflection, which is another patch that we're doing. But this particular month about fundamentals is about composition. And what I wanted to talk about today was taking elements from what you've discovered when you've been doing your intuition into the next phase of your painting. So, for example, here we've got Seasons of Time, and we've got, notice the circles. So just the fact that it was seasons, the fact that it was circular, means that it, with my intuition, started to bring in a lot of circular elements in this. If you look, that's circular as well. There's lots of little circles. And this is literally been triggered by these words. The seasons of time have much meaning. The seasons and your understanding, and it's the feel of the poem more than all of the words itself. But I know, because obviously I wrote this poem, so I know what the underlying meaning is, but it's not that I'm trying to show you. What I'm trying to show you is, see how the circles have come in. And I've done a lot of this sort of in a very intuitive way. But now I'm taking it and I'm thinking, okay, so what can I do with this that's going to help my compositions? And what I want to do is I want to take certain elements that have repeatedly come through this book. So, for example, this here, there's circles, but they're broken down circles. And I love this. I love the layers that are in here, the layers that it shows from underneath. And I definitely want to incorporate something like this. But interestingly, let me pause this for a minute. So interestingly, when we did art in practice last month, I used a similar sort of stencil idea and the layers. When we did the workshop, it was from the workshop in March, if you want to look it up. But I've used not circles, I've used the repeated patterns of hexagonals, and that was using a stencil. The point is that I really like that too, and I like it because that does happen in nature, because it happens with the bees and everything in their honeycombs. So I quite like the idea. So whatever I'm doing, I'm thinking back to the organic lines, and so I want to incorporate circles, but I want to incorporate broken circles. And if I start to know what I'm trying to incorporate and know what tools and know the colours, so I already know that I want to be using sort of teal colours, turquoisey colours, and teals, and these sort of burnt sienna type colours. And I also want to incorporate some of these beautiful, the sort of semi-neutrals, like, you know, desaturated blues and turquoises. And, you know, all of this is, I'm finding absolutely gorgeous. But also, again, this is the blues against the oranges, and I'm liking that too. So this whole series is going to be based around blues and oranges, and I think I'm going to be using phthalo blue. And I think just from what I'm seeing here, if you look, I like this blue. So we want to have some of that blue in there. But also it's nice to have the real dark colours in as well. So I'm starting to think in terms of colour, and I'm also starting to think in terms of elements. And it's the elements that I wanted to point out, because the elements are critical to our fundamentals and to it. But essentially, when we talk about composition, we're talking about shape and the way things are put together. So it all ties in. And what I'm trying to explain is that your intuition can feed your elemental ideas. So allowing yourself to play at the beginning is a really nice idea. But then we're going to start, not only are we going to reflect on it, we're also going to literally take out elements here. And then over the next couple of months, I'm going to be putting that all together. And I'm going to show you that in Art Hub. Okay, so I hope, come back to me, I hope you enjoy that, because I think we're going to be working quite differently, because I'm not going to be in Art Hub once a month to do art in practice. I'm going to start doing it as things arise, as I do. And we're going to be putting in the new art activities thread. So hope you enjoy, hope you like this idea. If you're not enjoying it and you just want it once a month, then let us know. But hopefully this is going to work. All right, tell me what you think. Okay, loads of love, see you soon, and bye for now.